What's up guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here then welcome to our little corner of the internet. Today we're going to be watching a video titled Trump's 400 million ballroom explained, which I am so excited for this video. I don't know, I just love videos like these. We also watched a video on the president's car, which is just mind-blowing, so I can't wait to see what this is about.
This is the East Wing of the White House. For more than 100 years, it has served as the public entrance to one of the most important residences in the world. If you were to ever schedule a visit, this is exactly where you would be arriving. Aside from that, it is also home to various important offices, such as the Office of the First Lady and the Presidential Emergency Operations Center. But today, the East Wing looks...
By the way, why does the First Lady have their own office? Isn't the First Lady like the president's partner? Or is it something else? And what do they do? What's their job?
It's like this.
What?
The East Wing looks like this. More than a century of history torn down to shreds in just a matter of days.
When?
All cleared to make space for what Donald Trump calls
great ballroom, and we're going to build the greatest ballroom anywhere in the world. There'll be nothing like it.
You know,
isn't a ballroom for dances and stuff? What are we gonna boogie down and on top of all that history? Boy, what?
the kind of thing he says about basically everything he does. But this ballroom is just one of many controversial changes that Trump has planned for the White House. Some of these changes have already transformed parts of the presidential residence in ways we've never really seen before.
It's really pretty.
If the ballroom already sounds unusual, it gets even stranger. UFC fights and the White House are two things I never thought I would say in the same sentence. But that is exactly what's happening on June 14th this year, which also happens to be Trump's birthday. It's a list of ideas that feels less like a traditional renovation and more like Trump transforming the White House into his own personal
into his own personal playground?
resort.
A resort, okay. But honestly, if you're the president and you can have a UFC fight in your backyard, I don't blame him. I mean, that doesn't change the infrastructure of the whole White House. The ballroom can be a little controversial. I mean, you could have done that like separately, but okay.
Depending on who you ask, these changes are either long overdue modernization projects or a deeply controversial attempt to reshape one of the most historic buildings in the country. Quick disclaimer, this story is still unfolding and things are changing fast. But let's start at the beginning as we take a closer look at Trump's plan to transform the White House. This is 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, or more commonly known as the White House. For more than 2 centuries, this building has served as both the home and the workplace of the President of the United States. Inspired by European neoclassical architecture, the building was designed to project power and stability. But the White House we see today is actually the result of more than 200 years of constant change. The building has been rebuilt, expanded and renovated countless times by different sitting presidents. For example, in 1962, John F. Kennedy redesigned the iconic Rose Garden just outside the Oval Office, giving it the layout we largely see today. Then in the 70s, Richard Nixon converted an indoor swimming pool into what is now the press briefing room. And more recently, Obama
changing an indoor swimming pool into a press conference room. Boo, I'm kidding. I mean, it's wise, but an indoor swimming pool is pretty nice too.
Repurposed the tennis court to be also used for basketball.
Makes sense.
Though these may be relatively small changes, what started as a single mansion has slowly grown into the White House complex that we know today. At the center of it all is the executive residence, where the president and their family actually live. This was the very first part of the White House, which was built and completed.
Do they actually live there though? Or is it like more like just, you know, because I wouldn't imagine that the president actually lives there. It's like, wouldn't it be, not unsafe, because they probably have all types of safety measures, but you know.
All the way in 1800. Aside from various bedrooms reserved for the first family, this building also contains the White House Library and the diplomatic reception room, which serves as an entrance for foreign delegations. Connected by the West Colonnade from the executive residence is the West Wing. This part of the White House is home to the iconic Oval Office and serves as the primary workplace for the president and their staff. The West Wing also contains the cabinet room, the press briefing room and the famous Situation Room. It's the command center where presidents monitor military operations, intelligence briefings and major global crises. Decisions about wars, hostage rescues and counterterrorism missions are often made right here. If you've ever seen this iconic photo of Obama during the operation that successfully eliminated Osama bin Laden, well, that was taken in here too. And finally, on the opposite side of the executive residence is the East Wing. Well, was the East Wing.
I wonder what the president's morning routine is like. I mean, their workplace is right next to their home. It's their home. Like, what do they do in the mornings? Like, do they go and have breakfast and then they work? Or like, what do you do as the president on a daily basis?
It used to serve as the public entrance to the White House, and it also housed the offices of the First Lady and her staff. Beneath it was the Presidential Emergency Operations Center. But in October 2025, the entire East Wing was demolished. Remember that month, because the timeline of events will be important as we dig deeper into the legality of all this. For decades, this layout remained largely untouched. Presidents redecorated rooms, updated technology, and occasionally restored parts of the building. But the overall structure stayed largely the same, even during what was arguably the most dramatic renovation in the building's history. In 1948, President Harry Truman ordered the complete reconstruction of the executive residence's interior, after finding out it was in imminent danger of collapse. The project was massive. Workers gutted the entire building from the inside. Everything except the outer stone walls was removed. Behind the historic facade, an entirely new steel frame was installed, along with modern plumbing, electrical systems and reinforced floors. By the time the renovation was finished in 1952, the interior of the White House had been completely rebuilt. But from the outside it looked almost exactly the same. The historic facade was preserved, and most importantly, the overall layout of the White House complex remained unchanged. Which is exactly why what's happening right now is quite unusual. Because for the first
But so the inside has already been changed completely from what it was before, no?
time in generations, an entire section of the White House complex has been demolished. And it wasn't because the structure was collapsing or an emergency renovation. Donald Trump personally ordered the East Wing to be taken down to make space for his extravagant ballroom. So let's take a closer look at this ballroom. In July 2025, roughly 6 months after returning to office for a second term, Trump unveiled plans for what would become the largest new addition to the White House complex in modern history. A massive state ballroom.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it being bigger than the actual White House. I mean, that's massive. I don't know. But then again, I'm not American. I'm not affected by this. But I wonder, well, would you guys tell me in the comments how you feel about these renovations? Apparently my neighbors started renovating as well, maybe. We gave them some inspiration.
Built directly where the East Wing once stood. According to Trump, the new ballroom would be capable of hosting as many as 650 guests at once. For comparison, the East Room, which is currently the largest event space inside the White House, can only hold around 200 people for a formal seated dinner. Because of this limitation, large state banquets and receptions are often held in temporary tents, set up on the South Lawn. It's a solution that has existed for decades, but one that Trump has repeatedly criticized. For years, he has argued that the White House should have a proper ballroom, a permanent venue designed specifically
It makes sense though.
for large diplomatic events. And to be fair, he might actually have a good point here. Relying on temporary tents for major state events isn't exactly ideal, so a permanent structure like a ballroom could make sense here. But the problem isn't the idea, it's how he does it. Critics argue that the demolition went ahead without any review whatsoever, skipping the legal process normally required to protect historic buildings. And that's why they sued the Trump administration. I will get to that part in a second.
Wow.
Based on early plans, this ballroom would span 8,360 square meters, or 90,000 square feet. For comparison, the executive residence is only 5,100 square meters, or roughly 55,000 square feet. Initial renders of the project feature grand chandeliers, high ceilings, and ornate classical detailing. It's designed to match the historic architecture of the rest of the White House. But a project of this scale obviously comes with a massive price tag. Current estimates placed the cost of the ballroom to around $400 million, making it one of the most expensive additions ever proposed for the White House complex. So who's actually paying for it? According to the Trump administration, it would be funded entirely through private donations, rather than taxpayer money.
We're doing it, no cost to the country. The money's being put in by me and
That's good.
donors.
And that's exactly where things start to get even more problematic. Because this isn't just a charity project. This is a permanent addition to the White House, the most powerful building in the United States. And now, wealthy donors are being invited to fund it, which raises a pretty obvious question. What do they get in return? Access, influence, favorable decisions down the line?
True. Okay. I was like, well, if they're not paying with tax money, who cares? You know what? You do you. But it's true. Obviously, nobody's just gonna fund it. I mean, it is the president, you know, to like, I would be the type of person probably to be like, you know, to be a good person, here you go. But it's not very smart. So they must have some type of, I mean, they must get something out of it, no?
Accepting private donations for a permanent addition to the White House raises serious questions about influence and transparency. And knowing Trump, there's likely more tied to these donations than just funding a ballroom. Whether it be his shady dealings in crypto or fossil fuels, the story is always the same. Trump's corporate and individual donors benefit in many different ways, thanks to his influence and power as the president. Then there's the question of timing. Building a project of this size inside one of the most secure and historically protected compounds in the world is far from simple. Before construction could begin, it needs approval from multiple oversight bodies and federal planning commissions. But looking at this timeline, things don't seem to add up. In February 2026, the Commission of Fine Arts voted to approve Trump's plans for the ballroom. Notably, all members of that commission were appointed by Trump himself, after firing the previous members in October. Shortly after, a federal judge declined to immediately stop construction on the ballroom after a lawsuit was filed by preservation groups. But a few weeks later, just as we were editing this video, that decision changed. On March 31st, the same judge ordered construction to halt, saying that the project likely cannot move forward without approval from Congress. The administration has already appealed, meaning the legal battle is still ongoing.
Wow.
Then, almost immediately after that ruling, another major decision came.
Interesting that they wouldn't like, that they would start before having it completely clear that they can do that.
in. On April 2nd, the National Capital Planning Commission voted in favor of the project's design. But despite that approval, the judge's ruling still blocks construction from moving forward. Yeah, it's a bit complicated. But looking at this whole timeline of events, you realize that Trump started the demolition of the East Wing as early as October, with crews quickly clearing the structure to prepare the site for construction. This was 6 months earlier, before the NCPC could even vote to approve the project.
I mean, at this point, what are they gonna do? Like, if they've already demolished it, like what? Like, there's probably no other choice than to build the ballroom or build something else there because it's already gone.
That's why the National Trust for Historic Preservation filed a lawsuit in December 2025, arguing that the demolition may have violated federal preservation laws. And even the media was left just to stare, as the historic building was demolished. According to one news outlet, workers on the site were not allowed to answer any questions from the media. Some were even reportedly required to sign a non-disclosure agreement. Which raises a bigger question. Why was there so little transparency around a project this significant? Especially when it involves tearing down part of one of the most historic buildings in the country. And in the meantime, the White House complex is already starting to look very different ever since Trump returned to office in 2025. One of the most notable changes happened in...
What are my neighbors doing? Rude. I'm joking, it's not rude. I'm not mad at you guys. You probably, maybe they're like, I'm gonna give her her own medicine because I make so much loud noises during the night while I stream and everything. I feel kind of bad for them, honestly.
The Rose Garden that borders the Oval Office and the West Wing. For many years, it has been used as a space for press conferences, ceremonial announcements, and meetings with world leaders. This is also where Trump initially announced his tariffs that triggered tensions with major trading partners all over the world.
We'll sign a historic executive order instituting reciprocal tariffs.
But under Trump's redesign, a huge portion of that garden has been transformed. The main grass section has been replaced with paved stone, creating a patio-style terrace with umbrella-covered tables similar to that of his Mar-a-Lago club. The idea behind the paved surface was for the space to be more practical for events. From what we know, this kind of change is fairly typical and similar to what past presidents have done.
Looks pretty.
Inside the building, there have also been some noticeable aesthetic changes. These include the addition of gold accents and ornaments throughout parts of the room. A style that closely...
Oh my god, goodness. You done? What, are they remodeling the whole house? Now that I'm hearing my neighbors, I just wonder what the downstairs neighbors have to deal with me, because poor neighbors. Because yeah, you can hear very clearly whoever is doing.
resembles the interiors of Trump's private properties. There's also the Presidential Walk of Fame, located along the West Colonnade. A gallery featuring portraits of almost all previous US presidents in gold frames, except one, Joe Biden.
Why?
Instead of his portrait, the display includes a picture of an auto pen, a reference to Trump's incorrect claims that Biden's executive orders were not legally binding as they were signed by an auto pen, and not by Joe Biden himself. But Biden did win the 2020 election, and he served as president starting in 2021. So this isn't just a missing portrait. It's the White House itself pushing Trump's political narrative inside a building that's supposed to stand above exactly that.
Uh-oh. That's wild. That's petty.
And those are just the changes happening inside it. Because some of the most controversial ideas go far beyond the gates of the White House, including proposals that could reshape parts of Washington, D.C. itself. One of the most striking ideas is something that has informally been called the Memorial Circle Arch. The proposal would place a massive triumphal arch here, at the western end of the Arlington Memorial Bridge near the border with Virginia. The inspiration behind it is fairly obvious: the iconic Arc de Triomphe in Paris. The proposal has even been dubbed as the Arc de Trump. At 76 meters or 250 feet tall, it would even be taller than the Arc de Triomphe itself. Similar to his proposed ballroom, the Arc de Trump is also facing criticism for its lack of approval from Congress and its disruption of historic architecture.
It's really pretty, but I don't know if that should be named after, a president.
And yet, somehow, even that idea isn't the most unhinged proposal linked to Trump. We have one more. A UFC event that will be held on the south lawn of the White House complex. Yes, a professional cage fight right outside the presidential residence. The event is officially called the UFC Freedom 250 and is scheduled for June 14th, a date that was chosen very deliberately. Trump says the event was made to celebrate the 250th anniversary of US independence. But as you might already know, June 14th...
With a UFC fight? I mean with a UFC fight? That's interesting.
Isn't Independence Day. That's actually Trump's 80th birthday. So yeah, it's pretty obvious what this event is really for. Instead of using a permanent arena, the event would transform the South Lawn into a temporary outdoor fight venue. At the center would be the iconic UFC octagon, surrounded by temporary seating and lightning rigs, with the White House itself serving as the dramatic backdrop for the broadcast. Large viewing screens will be set up nearby at the ellipse, where as many as 85,000 spectators could gather to watch the fight live. The event is estimated to cost $60 million. And just like the ballroom, organizers say no taxpayer money will be used.
Okay.
For more than 2 centuries, the White House has evolved very carefully. Changes were usually made slowly, often with approval from Congress, preservation commissions, and historical experts. Even major renovations were designed to preserve the building's historic appearance and symbolic role. What's happening now feels very different. It's one president reshaping the country's most historical residence according to his own personal taste. And all of this is happening in just the first year of Trump's second term. Who knows what else he's planning to do for the remaining 3 years of his presidency. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Alright, that's it for today. I'll see you in the next one.
I don't know, guys. I don't know. I mean, I'm not surprised by wanting to make changes and all of that and evolve and change. I just don't know. I don't know. How do you guys feel about it? Please let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear your opinions on it. Just don't fight with each other because I can't do confrontation. I don't like it. And thank you so much for joining me for this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please leave a like, subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.